to the evidence. It's all about unpacking bias, and you have to admit there has been a white bias in history.
No, there hasn't, because the facts...
From a white perspective...
Amy, the facts are, in history, most people in this country are white and heterosexual.
Of course, but then there's still...
So that's the history.
...voices that deserve to be brought into the discussion as much as the dominant.
Look,
like, that's all decolonising the curriculum is hearing all sides of the argument.
I think...
Which surely we at GB News love. We celebrate that. That's what we do.
We do, but we're not telling anybody it's bad to be white or it's bad to be...
Exactly.
That is not what...
Amy, it is. It is.
Amy.
The People's Channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock. You're with GB News this Thursday evening, and the top story from the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister has urged voters not to surrender to Labour, adding that this is a really important election where Britain could make a better choice. He was speaking to GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope. Rishi Sunak said if Labour wins the election, they'll reverse all the changes that he's made.
I want people to surrender to Labour. I don't want them to surrender to their tax rises. I don't want people to surrender our borders to Labour, our welfare system to Labour, our national security to Labour. Right? I'm up for the fight. I want people to join me in that fight. Like, we should not surrender our country to this. Right? We can do better. Last year's has not been easy. I'm not saying we've got everything right. I completely understand that. But this is really important, this election. If Labour are in power, they'll have a blank cheque to do whatever they want. That means put up your taxes. Reverse all the changes I made to get us to net zero in a sensible way. Right? Reverse all the progress we made on illegal migration.
In other news today, the former Newcastle United owner, Sir John Hall, says he has switched his political support to Reform UK from the Conservatives after previously donating tens of thousands of pounds to the Tories. He was cheered on at a Reform speech near Sunderland today, where the party leader Nigel Farage was speaking. Mr Farage said it was a privilege to welcome Sir John into the Reform UK family and said he'd made a substantial donation to the party's campaign. Sir John said he feels the Tories have left him disillusioned.
The Conservative Party has let me down. They've been a failure for the last many years, for the last 14 years, and they don't speak now for my English is my way of life, which I feel is under threat. And I looked around, basically, who I find to speak for me, and Reform Party, I feel, and Nigel's the only ones who are going to speak about saving my English culture.
Junior doctors in England went on strike today for the 11th time in almost a year. It's the start of a 5-day walkout, and it continues their long-running pay dispute with the government. They're asking for a 35% pay rise, which Labour has said is a non-starter if it gets in government. But the doctors say more industrial action will take place over the summer if negotiations don't move forward. The mother of missing British teenager Jay Slater says some of the money raised by a crowdfunding appeal will be withdrawn to help with the search for her son. The appeal has so far raised more than £36,000. The search for 19-year-old Jay Slater has entered its 11th day after he went missing while on holiday in Tenerife. And yesterday, Spanish police deployed helicopters above ground and sniffer dogs on the ground to search the mountainous areas of the island where he's gone missing. England's football squad has been training for their first knockout game against Slovakia in the Euros on Sunday. The Three Lions squad topped their group before getting into the knockout stages of the competition. They'll be without their midfielder, though. Phil Foden has had to leave training and go to the UK for the birth of his third child. Those are your latest GB News headlines. I'm Polly Middlehurst. I'm back tomorrow. See you then. Right now, headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. It's your first look at Friday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle. Joining me tonight are two Headliners' favourites, Cressida Yasqueen Wetton and Jonathan Crass-Teen Cogan. Are you both OK?
I'll take teen.
Well, I mean, it rhymes.
It does
which
indeed.
is the only reason for the nickname.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, you're no spring chicken. In spite of your...
my salad days are behind me.
Well, you still have your cherubic looks.
That's true. Talking of cherubic looks, can I congratulate you on half an hour in the makeup room? You look wonderful.
How long did you spend on the iron?
Look, we don't have to have these domestic squabbles are helping no one. We're here for the news.
Goodness me.
So let's go straight for the newspapers. Have a look at the front pages of Friday's newspapers, and the Daily Mail is leading with poll that shows it's not too late to stop Starmer supermajority. The Times has got shoot illegal migrants, says Reform campaigner. The Eye is running with private school fees VAT in Reeves' first budget, but delayed until 2025, and loophole closed. Very mysterious, that one. The Telegraph has got Farage is a Putin appeaser, says Sunak. As for the Express, they're leading with BBC-paid TV audience to appear at leaders' debate. And the Daily Star is running with invasion of the creeping bog crawlers. Of course they are. And those were your front pages. Right, so we're going to kick off with Friday's Daily Mail, and Cressida has the details.
Poll that shows it's not too late to stop Starmer supermajority. So we keep hearing about this supermajority, but apparently there's still 1 in 10 voters, which is about 4 million, who still haven't decided.
Is that right? Because, you know, I no longer trust polls. I don't mean the people, the race. I mean the, polls. Because they're always wrong. They're always wrong, and I keep seeing sort of different mixed messages about what's going to happen here. I think the supermajority is pretty much guaranteed, and I'm no Mother Shipton, but I'm just putting it out there. What do you think?
Well, at what point does something become a supermajority? Is there a certain percentage that has to be hit?
Well, it's roughly 2/3, but I think the press are just using it to mean landslide.
It's a fun word. It's a fun word. Everyone's saying it's going to be worse than 1997, but I don't really know what that means because I was playing Pingu. Pingu on the Game Boy Advance at the time.
That sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was a wonderful year.
You were 22 in 1997.
Yeah, I know.
OK, so look, this is obviously the Daily Mail are running with this for, perhaps partisan reasons, but, at this point, isn't it right, that Jonathan, that we should just accept the situation?
I mean, it does seem like a Hail Mary, and what I think is really interesting about this election is that the really exciting, well, if you can call it exciting, thing about it is who's going to be the opposition. That's what everyone's kind of, they're more looking forward to seeing who the real runner-up is. So.
Yeah, I think that is what's happening, isn't it, at the moment? We haven't had that for so long. We've been sort of stuck in this two-party situation.
And nobody's excited about the Labour win, from what I've seen. I mean, maybe people are.
Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, because Keir Starmer is going to get this supermajority, which hasn't been achieved since, 1804?
Well, he is the most charismatic leader ever. So
yeah, but that's it, isn't it? No one's enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what's weird about this. He's going to be able to say, look at me, I got this incredible Labour victory, it's historical, and yet he got it, even though he wasn't very popular.
He won't even say it with that much enthusiasm, Andrew. He'll be calmer than that.
Oh, I know, he can't muster it, he can't do it.
He's not
I should do this.
man.
I should go
go for it.
Politics.
Why not?
I can gesticulate, I can throw my arms about and pretend to care. All right, let's move on now to the front cover of The Express. Jonathan, this strikes me as another partisan front cover. What have you got?
I mean, this is an extreme scandal, if you ask me. BBC paid TV audience to appear at leaders' debate. So, the BBC spent more than £30,000 of licence fee payers, not us, money hiring audience members for the TV election debate between Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer. So, the 150-strong audience were each paid... How much were they given? Oh, £150 each. They called it disturbance money, and I hear a lot of that gets spent at the BBC for unfortunate disturbances. But, yeah, I mean, is this normal? Is this something that...
I'm sorry, Cogan, this is not that big a deal. It's just not. Disturbance money is quite standard in TV. It's your expenses, basically.
It's a great name.
No, but they had expenses as well, £30 expenses for travel.
It's because the BBC will have outsourced this to a company that gets the audience together, and these are some basic payments that went into that. Am I being silly?
No, I think you're exactly right. That it's part of a marketing company who get the audience. It's like doing a survey and then being paid for your views.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that big a deal, is it?
Not really.
And yet the Express has somehow managed to get this onto the front page as though this is some sort of evidence of BBC corruption.
Wrong.
I just don't think
I mean,
it is.
£150, it's not a huge amount of money, is it? It's not the glamorous sausage roll buffet that we lay on for Free Speech Nation.
Well, exactly. I think if people want to, be really treated...
A real night
How would they come to that show, Andrew?
What do you mean?
How would they come to free speech nation?
You mean this is a good opportunity for a plug?
What
they would do is
They
would go to www.sroaudiences.com and apply there.
And then come along. Paid £150.
That bit isn't true. That bit isn't true, but we do have free vol-au-vents. OK, let's move on to the front cover of The Eye. Cressida, what have you got?
Private school fees, VAT in Rachel Reeves' first budget, but delayed until 2025, and loophole closed.
That is a really long, meandering headline.
Well,
I object to it on that basis. I think it should be pithy. It should have an exclamation mark.
No.
Gotcha, or something.
The eye kind of is an exclamation mark if you turn upside down.
Oh, that's very clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing a bit, camera. Go to the wide shot. Well done. Yeah. Too late.
Imagine.
Go on, Wetton.
So yes, she's going to go ahead and impose 20% VAT on private schools, which we've heard lots about. But this is interesting. It says Labour now likely to prevent parents from trying to beat the hike by paying their children's fees years in advance.
Right.
So some people that can't afford the 20% VAT can afford several years' school fees.
Why are the Labour Party so down on private schools, do you think? I mean, I know it's all the class thing, but Labour is so middle class at the moment. You'd think they'd be bigging them up.
Well, that's a very good point. Some people might say that they're pulling the ladder up after they've got it.
Yeah, they've already graduated.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't Corbyn go to quite a posh private school? Came out of it with 2 E's at A-level.
Really?
Yeah.
OK.
I wish I was making that up.
Excellent. Well, I actually did quite a big deep dive into this story, and it turns out VAT stands for value-added tax.
OK, but at least you've done your research, Kogan, which I do appreciate. Were you privately educated?
No, everyone thinks I was, though. Well, I went to private primary school, but my parents made me get a job to pay for it, so the whole thing.
Oh, OK, the whole child labour thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, you were small and you were good at going up the chimneys.
I was, but they don't let you do the thing anymore with the... Yeah.
Well, we won't go into detail.
No.
Let's finish.
And it is a fine example of why you don't need to go to private school.
Well,
it's completely unnecessary.
You become a... What's the word? A colourful word I can say.
Scamp.
You become a cheeky scamp in getting state-educated.
OK, there we go. You're a great advert for the comprehensive system.
I mean, I did an exam to get in, obviously.
To the Star. And, Jonathan, of course, the Star are running with something that's utterly frivolous and not related to anything political.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted. It's called Invasion of the Creeping Bog Crawlers. Now, this is not a story about gender-neutral toilets, as Cresta joked about earlier backstage. This is actually a story about creepy crawlies coming up the toilets, such as rats, cockroaches, spiders, snakes, if you don't put the lid down. And if my girlfriend at home is listening about this, just put the lid down. It's all you need to do. It's all you need to do. Put the lid down.
The thing about this is there have been myths about this for centuries. There's even been films. I think there was a film where this happened. Doesn't it? Some sort of monster comes up the toilet.
When I was a backpacker in Australia in my 20s, there was a shop I worked in the outback, and there was a frog that lived in the toilet.
Frog?
And on day one, you go, what? And they said, oh, yeah, that's just Froggo. He just lives there. And
the bog frog?
Yes,
the bog frog.
I swear. And it used to sometimes be there, sometimes not, but that's where it lived.
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to get animals in various places, but I really wouldn't worry about this. This looks like panic-mongering from the Star.
Not in England.
Well, it's
Maybe in
obviously
Scotland.
somebody who wants their partner to put the toilet seat down. How's your girlfriend been working for the Daily Star?
No, it's sort of beyond her comprehension level, but that's not the problem. The problem is shut your toilet, otherwise you're going to get tarantulas.
There we go. OK, well, that's all we've got time for in this section, but after the break, we're going to be talking about reform, taking a bashing in the polls, the North Korean cavalry, and Labour's ban on hunting. It's time to sell those guns. Call me, I know a guy. See you in a moment.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
We've been talking about the White House is concerned with playing down concerns about the health of President Biden, who's apparently taken to freezing during public events. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni was seen herding the president back into a photo with world leaders after he shuffled aimlessly away from the group. In the last few days, videos and images of the president freezing at a fundraising event went viral, but the White House stated that they were deceptively edited cheap fakes. With me now, again, is my panel, the historian and broadcaster Tessa Dunlop and the associate comment editor of The Telegraph, Mujaz Ahmed. Mujaz, I mean, you are a journalist. What about this idea that in some way the images could be fake?
They could be fake, and some of them will be fake. But the reason these AI images or AI videos or weirdly edited videos are a problem for the White House is that people have seen enough of Biden freezing in real life.
It's not going away, this one. It's perception versus reality, but as Mustafa said, it doesn't matter because it's now become Biden's reality, which is bushfighting these questions about his ability connected to his age. I don't understand where you go from here. He's got a vice president who isn't presidential material, who I think polls worse than he does, despite these, you would call them ageist. In many ways, it's about his competence, isn't it?
It can make a big difference when the president whose competence, mental competence, is under question, is running on the matter of competence itself. They're trying to paint Trump as being incompetent, as being not presidential, as being unable to lead, while they have a candidate who struggles to get off the stage. Yeah. That's the issue for them. And it's not really about age. He's not much older than Trump, as you say. It's about the appearance of age.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle, and with me still are the will they, won't they couple for the ages, Cressida Wetton and Jonathan Cogan. Jonathan, I see your shirt still isn't ironed.
Look, the maid she'd taken a rather long break. We had to let her go. So.
Right, so you just have to look shabby.
Yeah.
From now on.
Shabby chic, and I've got a hair.
Terrible. All right, well, let's start this section with The Guardian. And we're talking about whistleblowers, my favourite subject. Cressida.
Managers who silence whistleblowers will never work in NHS again, vows Streeting.
Right.
So NHS, as we know, is full of exciting problems. And Wes
various scandals.
Various things going on. And Wes Streeting is saying, I want the whistleblowers to be able to come forward and tell us what's wrong so we can reform the NHS. And he's been talking to The Guardian, and he's warned that the Care Quality Commission has got to get tougher. So these are like the Ofsted people, but for hospitals and NHS.
I mean, it is difficult, isn't it? Because you do rely every now and then on whistleblowers. And we saw that at the Tavistock Clinic, the NHS clinic, and the whistleblowers were just ignored over successive years. Wes Streeting has come around to the view that actually the Cass review has a point, and Wes Streeting has understood the problem now, and so maybe that's had some sort of impact on what he thinks. Well,
maybe that's a very generous interpretation, Andrew, but maybe he's also just kind of getting ready to take the poison chalice, and he's saying, goodness me, I wonder what's in the cupboards at the NHS, and he's going to throw them open and go, oh, it's terrible on day one.
Is he that camp? I mean, no, he might.
That's my best Wes Streeting impression.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
No judgment. Jonathan, what do you think?
I think it's a wonderful impression.
Yeah, it's good.
But, about the story, I kind of think, fair enough. You want an open work environment where people can highlight any problems and not feel afraid that there's going to be retribution if they do. I mean, on paper, it sounds suspiciously suitable.
So you believe in whistleblowers?
I think so. If it's going to make a place better, especially if there's either like negligence or any sort of...
Was it you who went to HR about my drinking?
Look, I just said you don't need to have a whole bottle before midday. It's a family show, OK?
Well, it stops me shaking.
Anyway. Trust me, I've worked with him without it. Anyway, what else?
Well, what else is there to say other than it is a bit of a poison chalice? Whoever's running the NHS, whichever government happens to be, is going to be getting a lot of flack for it, because no one's ever happy, are they?
I think what he's really saying is the NHS, or my interpretation of this, is the NHS is like a religious thing, isn't it? We all love it, pots and pans, support the NHS, and he's shaking that up a bit. So I'm kind of in favour of that. Well done, Wes.
Yeah, and it is something that is cross-partisan, isn't it? Everyone loves it.
Yes.
Tony Benn once said that there would be a revolution if we ever got rid of the NHS. I think he might have a point. Anyway, I know a lot of our viewers don't agree with that, so I look forward to your tweets. We're going to move on now to the Eye. Reform hit by controversy.
Yes, indeed. So reform support badly hit by Nigel Farage Russia claims, poll suggests. Another poll for you, Andrew, very exciting. So Reform UK have alienated some voters with Nigel Farage's claim that the West is partly to blame for the invasion of Ukraine, according to a new poll. So this is a poll done by the BMG Research Survey, one of my favourite survey groups.
I looked them up. All their clients are like public sector and charity. They've got a very specific remit.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But all of this, we should say, was down to the interview that Nigel Farage gave, where he said, effectively what he's been saying for many, many years, which is that the gradual expansion of NATO is considered by the Russians to be a provocation, which is true. But the people have taken this, that he's saying he's sort of saying that the war is our fault and that it's not...
Pearl clutching on this has been second to none. It's some of the best, I don't believe it, I've ever seen. I mean, he actually said, he referred to Putin, he said, of course it's his fault. He's used what we did as an excuse to go to his people and say, let's go to war. So I don't think what he said was really that outrageous at all.
Especially since it's identical to what he's been saying for years. I mean, that's what's so strange about it.
I sat through the Tucker Carlson interview. I know what Putin said. You know, didn't they all watch it? I mean, this is what Putin thinks. And that's
Putin's been saying this quite explicitly. He's been talking about NATO's expansion for a long, long time. But the question is whether it was sensible and politically a good idea for him to dwell on it in the way that he did, you know, because it might have been smarter at the moment to just kind of sidestep that a little bit. On the other hand, the reason why people like Farage is because he just says what he thinks.
And he's doubled down on it since. He's even highlighted that Boris Johnson made similar claims back in the day.
Loads of people have said this. Like, this is what I don't get about it. Well, of course, they wanted to find something to get him on, didn't they?
Do you think that the drop in the polls is connected to this? Because that's not explicit, is it? We don't really know that.
That's the question, because a lot of people at the time said, oh, this will affect the polls. And certainly, I think the people who made such a big deal out of this interview were hoping that it would have a knock in the polls, and maybe it has. I mean, who knows?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because I remember when the Ukrainian flags were everywhere, you know, the country was very taken with it. I remember meeting a man in a nightclub that had a Ukrainian pedicure on his feet. That's activism for you in London.
Yes.
So I don't know, maybe people are outraged, but I don't think it's reasonable.
No. OK, interesting. So we're going to move on now to The Telegraph. North Korea and Putin. That's a match made in heaven, isn't it? That's what we all want to see.
That's right. Ukraine-Russia war live. North Korea to send engineering troops to help Russia rebuild bombed city.
And this, I guess, is in the wake of Putin's visit to North Korea, where they were seen holding hands and kissing.
Yes, that's it. When they walk around together, you can hear the cheers music, and Putin was waving goodbye on a plane, blowing him a little... He didn't blow him a kiss, but it felt like he was going to. So, North Korea are going to send a large number of engineering and construction troops.
Yes.
So they're actually troops, but they're not going there to fight, they're just going there to rebuild.
Are they going to build fake shops like they do in North Korea?
What are they going to do? They're going to get there and they're going to find out that some people eat more than once a week, and then he's got a problem on his hands, doesn't he?
That is a problem, isn't it?
I don't know,
What do you think about this, Kogan? Because I am concerned about the, you know, two sort of malevolent powers.
The alliance together.
Yeah, it's really not good. It's like the Sith and the whatever. What would you say? And Skeletor.
The Borg.
The Borg. I thought Skeletor was a better reference.
Nice. Yeah, fair enough.
I think people will have forgotten that.
Yeah, it's true. It's a classic. But what do I think? I don't think North Korea are his first choice. It's like the big bully in schools kind of isolated everyone else, and now he's picking the kind of incel nerd kid at the back.
Oh, really?
Like, you can join my team. That's kind of how I see this.
Who would he have rather have had, do you think?
I think he'd rather have had... who would he rather have had?
Maybe
China? Yeah.
Maybe.
So.
But there have been overtures with China, so, I mean, I don't think that's to be ruled out.
But they're not like super buddies driving around together singing karaoke.
No, I know. This is a worry, though. I mean, you know...
It's a huge worry. And they're paying £92 million, Russia, to North Korea.
Is that right?
That's mega bucks in North Korea.
Yeah.
You could buy North Korea, probably, with £92 million.
You almost certainly could. Oh, well.
All right, let's look into it.
Scary stuff. We're going to move on now, though, to the eye and the rich-poor divide. Jonathan, what's this about?
Yeah, this isn't very nice news. So the rich-poor health divide led to 64,000 more avoidable deaths during austerity. So... some analysis has been done by the CPP, which I won't explain because you all know who they are, and they've revealed large differences between local authorities in England and Wales about preventable mortality, so death that could have been prevented either through treatment or through better care between 2010 and 2019. And basically the whole point is is that in wealthy areas, there seems to have been a closing a gap in unnecessary deaths, whereas comparatively in poor areas, it seems to have grown.
Why is this news? Insofar as, I think it's good that people are being reminded of this. But surely, deep down, we all know this. I mean, the thing is that we talk about the rich-poor divide, but ultimately poverty matters because poverty kills, and it would be quite good to resolve this.
It's not just a choice, is it? I feel like being an impoverished person.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, apparently if you move to Milton Keynes, that's good for your health. That was a shock.
That can't be true.
Well, according to this, it's one of the places where the gap has shrunk.
Milton Keynes?
Yes, who knew? And Brighton and Hove. That's less of a surprise, isn't it? I think a bit of sea air.
Yeah, but you have to deal with all those crazy activists in Brighton and Hove. At least in Milton Keynes, you get to say, I live in the place where they filmed Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Which is what we all want.
It's the only thing I want, apparently. Kogan, what do you think?
Well, I was wondering why why there is this divide, and why poor people are more likely to die. Is that because they have access to worth healthcare, or is it like a lifestyle choice? But I also saw a documentary about this really sort of obese rich guy who just kept on eating, and then he ate this like wafer thin mint and he just exploded. So I don't know what it could be. It could be anything.
I remember seeing that documentary.
Yeah,
it was
very unhappy. Yeah, it should have had a trigger warning.
Yeah, most definitely.
Apparently, it's better to have public health grants than just plough the money into the NHS, according to this. And I thought, well, what's a public health grant? So I looked it up, and it's where local authorities have these bits of money that they can go and put into things that they think are worthwhile. Now, that's interesting.
So localised spending is better than centralised spending?
Well, it turns out, that if you plug the money into the local people, they know what's going on.
Fancy that. OK, well, we're going to wrap up this section with The Telegraph now. Hunting. Cressida, you're a hunter, aren't you? You hunt things?
No, I'm not.
You've never shot a bird?
I've never shot a bird. No. I had to think. Have I shot any birds?
You did have to think about it. That's very suspicious.
I think probably in the late 90s I went in a rock pool and maybe caught a crab in a bucket.
Look, we all caught crabs in the late 90s.
Anyway, Cressida,
what's the story? Labour plans total hunting ban if it wins, legal papers show, which doesn't sound that extraordinary because we know that Labour aren't into hunting, fair enough. But where it gets complicated is it's not in their manifesto because it would be seen as part of a class war and alienate rural voters. But this is where it gets complicated, there's legal action against a man called Dan Norris, who's the former chairman of the League Against Cruel Sports.
Yes.
So he's part of this organisation that we don't like hunting, we're trying to stop it. But somebody else called Andy Knott, who used to be in it, but was forced out, according to him, because he wasn't happy that Labour weren't going all in and saying we're going to ban everything.
Yes, yes.
What's even weirder is that this guy, Andy Knott, used to be a lieutenant colonel in the army. But it doesn't go together, does it? Somebody being so passionate about stopping hunting, who's in the army.
Yeah. He only likes hunting humans, the deadliest game of all.
Exactly it.
The deadliest game of all. That's a Zodiac reference. That's quite niche.
No idea.
Kogan, what do you think? I mean, the thing about this is, obviously this will alienate rural voters, but rural voters aren't really the ones that Labour particularly want, are they? I wouldn't have thought.
No, I mean, I suppose they want as many as they can get, but yeah, traditionally speaking, there'd be more Conservative voters down in the rural, especially the people who do hunting. But I mean, what do I think? I mean, I personally don't want to do hunting, but I also understand that.
Have you done it?
I once stamped on a duck because it bit me, but that's it.
That doesn't count as hunting.
If it bit you, it's not a duck.
It's self-defence. Yeah. You had no choice.
It was a duck-sized horse. Well, I can't remember what it was. It was something. But, yeah, look.
Hunting doesn't appeal to me at all. And also, I've had arguments with people who do hunt.
Yeah.
And they say, it's not a cruel sport. And I think, well, once you're shooting animals' heads off, there is an element of cruelty to that, I would have thought.
Well, it always gets hysterical, doesn't it? The no fox hunting argument. And then you look at all the factory farming and you think, is that really the most important part of animal welfare? I mean, personally, I wouldn't do either.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin people's fun, but look, I do also believe in animal rights. So what are you going to do?
So reasonable.
So reasonable.
Robot foxes?
It's a fault. OK, look, we're at the halfway point now, but do join us in part 3 for assisted dying hijinks. Virginia Woolf's a big day out, and a white guy puts his foot in it. Who would have thought it? Stick around.
Hi there, time for the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Cool Atlantic winds return across the UK this weekend. That means blustery showers, especially for northern parts, but some drier and brighter interludes too, especially across southern parts. Low pressure, an unseasonably deep low, is now crossing northern Scotland. Around the south of that low, we've got these strong winds bringing Unpleasant conditions really across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England. Spells of rain or showers continuing through the night. The strongest winds pushing through northern and northeast Scotland. Meanwhile, further south, it's mostly dry, apart from 1 or 2 showers for Wales and the southwest. Patchy cloud, but a cooler night for many of us, so 11 to 13 Celsius by dawn. Now we start the day with those winds and the outbreaks of rain continuing across northwest Scotland. The Northwest Highlands seeing prolonged and at times heavy rain, and the rain then sweeping into Orkney and Shetland later. Some shelter from the rain across eastern and southern Scotland, but a few showers here, brightening up across Northern Ireland compared with the last 24 hours. A few sunny spells, but also 1 or 2 showers. A few showers there for Wales, Northern England, perhaps the southwest, but the further southeast you are, the drier it will be, the brighter it will be. There'll be quite a lot of cloud, to be honest, across the UK during the day, but some brightness will develop, especially towards the southwest by the afternoon. Further north, any rain tends to break up into showers, but there will be some heavy downpours for the Highlands, Grampians, the northwest of Scotland, and that strong wind continues, making it feel on the cool side. In the south, where we've got some sunshine and lighter winds, 23 Celsius, so not too unpleasant. We start Saturday with a lot of fine weather, best of the sunshine the southeast, as well as parts of southern Scotland and Northern Ireland. This finger of cloud pushes into northern and western England as well as Wales to bring some light rain by the afternoon. But for many this weekend is looking mostly settled, if a lot cooler compared with the weather of recent days.
This is GB News and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but actually it's about you.
And we won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear
all sides
as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's election channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey. And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Friday's newspapers. Let's get straight back into it with Virginia Woolf in the Daily Mail. Long overdue, Jonathan.
Absolutely. So the question for the ages, who's afraid of Virginia Woolf? People with blue hair, apparently. So Virginia Woolf's great niece slams Wokarati Council for adding QR code on renowned writer statue to explain her unacceptable views. So Labour-run Camden Council added the digital tag on the famed writer's monument in Bloomsbury, central London, which outlines Woolf's imperialist attitude.
So basically, you see the statue, you scan it, and it says, this woman was a horrible racist.
Exactly.
Not like she wrote Mrs. Dalloway into the Lighthouse and these really important works of literature, but she's an evil fascist.
Well, that's the most important thing about her, is the views which don't hold up under modern scrutiny completely outweigh all her great artistic achievements.
So this is it, isn't it, Cressida? We must stand in judgment over all of those geniuses who came before, because we are better than Virginia Woolf.
That's right, Andrew.
You know, even though she was born in 1882, and the people criticising her would have felt the same if they were born in 1882, no doubt.
2024 is just better.
Is that right?
In fact, it's not only better, it's the best, and it always will be.
Why don't we produce novels as good as hers, then? Or anything?
Look, it's
because
not
novels
about
are racist.
the novels, Andrew.
Right.
Do you know what? I can't wait to see the QR codes on other people's statues in 100 years from now.
Oh, it'll be amazing.
Won't we have some wonderful QR codes?
Oh,
to
it'll
look
be great. It'll be
forward
like,
to?
these idiots thought that men and women were the same. You know, it'll be stuff like that. Or these idiots tried to censor everyone who disagreed with them on the slightest political point. Or these idiots were trying to tear down statues. Can you imagine? Look at them. They're idiots.
The statue won't be there. It's just going to be a QR code, yeah.
Do you think that'll be what it is?
Well, I quite like the idea of putting QR codes on, you know, people to explain certain things. I could put one on my girlfriend's shirt. Like, she's an actress. She doesn't know who Rishi Sunak is. Don't blame her. Like, it's fine.
It would be quite useful, wouldn't it?
That'd be very handy.
The arrogance, though, of assuming that you've got all the answers, that future generations won't judge what you think. I just think it's really funny. It suggests a complete lack of any knowledge of history whatsoever.
Absolutely.
You know,
And not only only that, but she wasn't just neutral. She was a feminist, socially progressive, a literary pioneer, politically active. I mean, she wasn't just somebody from that time, they had outdated ideas. She was a progressive, and they don't recognise that.
No, I know. They didn't understand that progressives also used racially language that we would consider racist.
Exactly.
But at the time, it was normal to them.
Fools.
Yeah, oh, for God's sake. Anyway, they are fools, absolutely. Let's move on to The Guardian now, and this is a story about assisted dying. So, Cressida, jolly story for you.
Jolly story indeed. I want a choice. Terminally ill women urge early Commons vote on assisted dying. So, two women who both have incurable cancer are urging the next UK Prime Minister, whoever that is, because we don't know yet,
we don't know.
To allow a
no
vote,
idea. No.
to allow a vote on assisted dying within the first 100 days of the new government. So they're saying, get on with it.
The thing about all this is, obviously, I think everyone has sympathy, deep sympathy for anyone who's going through that. And you can understand people wanting to take charge of their own situation when they are terminally ill. By the same token, there are very, very good arguments against euthanasia, the way that it can be exploited. We've seen it in Canada. I mean, the Canadian government is even putting out adverts saying, feeling a bit depressed, why not kill yourself? I mean, this is, it's dangerous stuff, I think.
It's outrageous.
However, I do understand why. There are two sides to this.
Well, I saw one thing recently on Twitter, or X, as I have to say. A lady I think she was very badly disabled, and she needed a wheelchair ramp.
Yes.
And then she literally got like a leaflet or something from the Canadian government saying, have you thought about euthanasia?
Yes.
And then I saw someone make an amazing joke, which is, we can't give you a ramp, but we can give you a slippery slope, which I thought was a technically perfect.
Very good.
No, it's very good. I mean, but this is the real problem, isn't it? And I do think I've seen stories of young people with nothing wrong with them other than depression. And the government and health officials are suggesting or intimating that euthanasia might be the way.
It's unbelievable.
And there is actually there have been reports of some people who will be euthanized on the basis of depression alone, and they are young and perfectly healthy. This is scary. I think, and isn't Starmer quite for this idea?
Well, yeah, and to be fair, Rishi's also open to it. I mean,
really?
They're all saying, well, they're doing what politicians would do, and they're saying, well, what do the people want? And of course, Esther Rantzen is there, being the poster girl for this, saying it's a good idea, which of course I understand. That's obviously, people feel compassionate about it. This article brings money into it as well. Apparently, it costs £15,000 to go to Dignitas.
Right.
So they're now making it like this luxury product. Only the rich can afford to kill themselves, which is so bleak.
The luxury suicide tents at Glastonbury, that kind of thing.
Oh, it is bleak. OK, let's move on now to The Times. This is controversy over at ITN. Kogan.
Yes, it's not us for once. Hooray.
Yay!
So Tom Bradbury...
We're only halfway through the show, Jonathan.
Yeah,
true.
You haven't said the worst of it yet.
No,
I know what you're like.
It's not Tom Brady, but I'm just going to call him Tom Brady because I can't read his name. So Tom Brady's white male comments draw complaints from ITN staff. So ITN have come under pressure from angry, furious staff to censor Tom Bradby. Bradby, OK. I don't watch television.
He knows your name.
Does he? Do you reckon?
He talks about you all the time.
Yeah.
So what's Tom Bradby done?
He's basically said that he's not worried about his job because he's the only white guy on the team or something to that effect. What did he say? The actual quote was... he's not worried about... he's not insecure in his role because there aren't many white male anchors left, dare I say. So I feel a bit less nervous about that than possibly I should.
OK.
And obviously, ironically, they're now really angry with him for saying that because the implication is there... He's implying that people are hired based on other things other than merit, whether that's race or gender, etc.,
Well, he's not even implying that. He could be saying, "Oh, the world started to diversify."
OK.
He's not
but that's why they're angry. That's why they're angry.
Yes, that is why they're angry.
But it's true. It's true that people get hired on...
Well, that's
on
no
a beautiful
defence.
Well, no, but it is true. Like, people are being hired for their race, for their sexuality, as opposed to merit. That's definitely happening. It's very strange that we can't talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, that is the case.
The rules are, at the top of the organisation, they scream it and they say, we do diversity hires.
Yeah.
And then at the individual level, you've got to say they earned it. That's the rule. It doesn't make sense, but that's what you have to do. It's kind of Orwellian double speak sort of thing.
It's very strange. Like, in the comedy industry, it's very, very clear. You get some very...
female identifying act preferred. You see that all the time.
You see it very explicitly. And then you watch things like Live at the Apollo and you see some very mediocre acts who are clearly there to tick a diversity box. That's just true. Everyone knows it. Everyone can see it. But we're not meant to say it.
No,
Why?
don't say it. Don't ruin the spell.
Because it's had an adverse impact on people.
What does
Jonathan
that mean?
had 2 adverse impacts on me during the break. I think these people need to toughen up.
Yeah, but he's only here because he's Jewish.
Exactly.
I'm
not even Jewish.
He just said it on his
I thought
application
it was the
form.
learning thing.
Oh, the learning disability. Yeah, it was partly that as well.
Yeah, the Make-A-Wish. But also, I mean, Tom Bradby, he's
You've finally got his name right.
Yeah, he's fine. Basically, all he has to do now is just have a QR code on him, which people can scan and make sure that
then it'll be
they
fine.
know, yeah.
Okay.
I don't
All
know.
right. Well, look, let's move on.
And he
now.
said it was a white boy summer. I don't know what that means.
No, I don't either. I don't want to know. The I now. He didn't say that, by the way. And we're talking about ultra-processed food now. What's this about?
Why it's too soon to treat UPFs like tobacco, and a UPF is an ultra-processed food. So some doctors want tobacco-style health warnings on the really naughty stuff.
Yes.
Which sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? You know, we shouldn't be eating too much salt, fat and sugar, blah, blah, blah. It turns out this idea of UPF has only been around for about 15 years, brought out by a Brazilian doctor called Professor Carlos Monteiro in Sao Paulo. And he's... So this is going through should we or shouldn't we? Because the problem is if you start putting these labels on things, you might be telling people not to eat stuff that's actually not that bad. Stuff like yoghurt would count. It's
I don't like those sort of warnings. I don't like the sort of images on the cigarette packets even. They bother me. I mean, I get it. I get why they're doing it, but it's so grotesque. Because people leave them, don't they, just in restaurants and stuff. You have to see them.
Yes, you do.
You know, it's not good.
True.
But so the ultra-processed food, I keep being told this, that the reason why we're all so fat is because of ultra-processed food.
Sure.
You see those things online where they show an old picture of people on the beach in the 70s.
Yes.
And everyone's totally skinny. And then they'll say, look, there weren't any fat people back in the 70s. And there is a point to that. You know, there are more fats than there used to be.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just sort of the traditional American diet. It's led to, I think it's 1 in 2 people in America now obese. And so much of that comes from, like, hyper-palatable food. So food that's been engineered by... essentially chemical engineering companies to be as delicious as possible.
Is that what it is?
It's partly that. It's also to do with when you ever have like they say if anything that you can't make in your kitchen, that's ultra processed.
Right. That's what I think, because I'm prone to gaining weight. And is it because I'm being poisoned by these big evil...
Effectively.
Well, it's not all the ultra-processed things, is it? It's as you just said, it's the hyper-palatable. That's a great word.
Right? But hyper-palatable because most things in nature aren't hyper-palatable.
Right.
Yeah.
They're palatable
maybe
if you're
honey.
lucky.
Yeah. Yeah,
Some of it looks like Lewis Schaefer's diet. That's not palatable at all.
So delicious.
Maybe there were fatter people before, like Henry VIII. He was a jabber.
Yeah, but he had access to stuff. He could probably get Pringles even then.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Maybe. OK.
He does look a bit like the Pringle guy.
He does look like the Pringle guy. Let's finish this section with the Metro now and fruitarians. Jonathan, you're doing a fruitarian diet at the moment, aren't you?
No, I'm doing the keto diet, which is equally as miserable, but it actually makes sense.
OK, but what's a fruitarian diet?
Well, the fruitarian diet, well, I'll get to that in a second. I'll read the headline because I'm a pro.
OK.
So I'm raising my kids as fruitarians. We only eat fruits and vegetables. That actually kind of covers the
it sort of explains
diet
it, doesn't
as well.
it? Yeah,
so this woman is bananas. So basically, Pam Jahal, who is 47, is a raw vegan, meaning she only eats uncooked fruit and vegetables and has done so for the last 4 years. Now, she started this diet because she had rheumatoid arthritis at the beginning of 2020, and she says, having done this diet, it's now cleared up, which I actually think makes a lot of sense, because if you only eat basically raw fruit, you're not eating any ultra-processed food, as we learned about in the previous story.
Is this similar, though, to Jordan Peterson only eating meat?
An elimination diet.
That really helped his health. I think Lewis Schaefer says a similar thing, but then Lewis Schaefer is mad.
He says, don't drink water.
You think he would have talked about it, though, if he'd only eaten it? I don't know. But I think there is that element to that. When you're not eating loads of grains and all that kind of stuff that we don't naturally process and cause inflammation, this isn't funny. Well, I just know about this.
You just know about this
Do you believe it, though?
Do I believe it? I think so.
I think so. Like, Chris, I've been told that if you eat a lot of fruit, you do actually get fat because fruit is full of sugars.
It's all glucose,
right?
or fructose.
Do you know what I thought a fruitarian was? Just because of that film, Notting Hill, I thought it was people that could only eat stuff that had fallen from a tree. They didn't want to hurt the vegetables.
Is that what you thought it was?
Yeah, I'm just an idiot.
Are there people who only eat meat if the cow dies of natural cause, if the animal dies naturally?
Yes.
Like hunting?
I know somebody who only eats roadkill and cold meat.
Roadkill?
Anything that's going...
So they'd have like a fried, flattened hedgehog?
Yeah, 100%.
Of an evening?
He's an animal guy, loves animals, and used to be vegan, and then got to a point where he, unlike this lady, he was like, maybe I should do a bit of Joe Rogan.
But now he's a really dangerous driver. He's like, whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You're not getting any omega-3, you're not getting any vitamin D, you're not getting any protein, you're not getting any iron. Just, sort yourself out.
All right, there we go. Well, look, we've got one section to go. It's a doozy with the Glastonbury High Life and an ancient Greek computer. Well, at least it's not AI. Oh, and we've also got an AI story, so see you in a few minutes.
This This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Almost half of those seeking to have an affair are happier with their job than with their primary relationship. But what exactly does a cheater do for a living?
Well, medical assistants and nurses, surprisingly, top the lists of professions for female cheaters. And it's jobs in IT or tech for male cheaters, which I think is less of a surprise.
No.
This is all according to a survey by the dating site Ashley Madison. OK,
so why do people cheat? To answer this, we're joined now by broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. Good morning, Lucy.
Morning, Lucy.
So, is it OK of me to say naughty nurses in this day and age? Am I going to get cancelled for that?
You're out.
Yeah, I'm out.
Been cancelled.
See ya.
There's the door.
But yes, you're talking about the caring professions, and I think it's very appropriate.
Surprised by that.
Women, well, because they're very nurturing, very loving, very giving, whereas the males who are in tech and IT, very strategic.
Is there a link between high-pressure jobs, maybe nurses infamously, you know, they're working long hours, underpaid, stressed out? Is there a link between jobs of that nature and cheating, maybe as a relief?
Absolutely. Is it just about sex, or is it about emotional connection? Is it about emotional validation? And increasingly, people are discovering that their primary relationship is just not a place where they feel safe.
This survey found that personality didn't actually come into it that much. It was about half and half if you're an introvert or an extrovert that you'd be likely to have an affair.
I think that's right. And I think that just speaks to the fact that all people want to have a good emotional connection. So it doesn't matter whether you're really social or whether you're someone who has to recharge your batteries in private time, that actually we only ever want three things in life. We want to feel safe, we want to feel loved, but we also want to feel heard. And in increasingly a number of marriages and long-term relationships, we get into grooves, we get into ruts, and we stop hearing our partner, we stop listening to them, and they stop listening to us.
The People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Friday's newspapers. We're going to kick off this final section with The Star and lavish options at Glastonbury. Cressida.
Inside huge £24,000 Glastonbury tents with swimming pool and dining lounge. That's not what Glastonbury is all about, is it? I've been to Glastonbury in the scorching sun and the terrible mud, and that's what Glastonbury is about, discomfort.
The spirit of Woodstock lives on within you, Cressida.
You should be going home with some kind of disease at the end of it all. Yeah.
Exactly, or a skin condition, something like that.
Yeah.
Ringworm.
Scabies.
Something that's going to do a lot of weight loss damage, that happens. So these pop-up luxury hotel glamping things, 24 grand. I thought that meant to own, but I think it's just for the festival.
Yeah, no, it's just renting it.
Apparently it can have 8 people in it.
8 people. So let's say, what's that? 8 so far, I don't know, 24 divided by 8, 3, 18, 24.
This is fascinating,
divided by 5.
but I think we should talk about the story
It's
rather
just
than...
going to be full of
£600 a night.
recently divorced centrist dads who want to do something a bit wacky, but not too wacky.
Yeah, but the thing about this,
Glastonbury.
Glastonbury is full of posh folks, isn't it? So they are going to do this. I've never been to Glastonbury. I did go to Latitude, and I was put off by all the... They painted all the sheep pink, and I just think that's vulgar. And did the sheep consent? Can a sheep consent?
Real sheep?
Yeah, real sheep. They were just wandering around.
Naff.
I just thought it was appalling. And it was just full of awful posh people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's what's going on here as well, isn't it? Just a bunch of poshos listening to music.
30 grand, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pathetic.
Would you do it? Would you do comedy there if they asked?
No.
OK.
No, I absolutely wouldn't.
Fair enough.
No. I really hate it.
OK.
I hate anyone who goes to it.
We'll go next year.
I don't know. I just think, look, that's ridiculous. And if you're going to go, you're right. You should go in for the squalor.
But you know, I haven't been since 2008. That was the last Glastonbury I went to, and it was getting too posh then. So by now, goodness me, I dread to think.
I'd worry about, like, getting the cutlery in the wrong place.
That kind of
using
thing.
the fish knife.
Yeah,
with the,
not addressing people with the right title. I'd have to get my copy of Debrett's and roll on off to Glastonbury. I think that's what I imagine it's like.
It's not a million miles away.
No.
But you can also get absolutely munted at 4 a.m. as well if you want.
That's not bad. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Telegraph now. An AI-generated advert by Toys R Us.
Toys R Us debuts gaff-filled, not giraffe, gaff-filled AI advert to chorus of derision. So an AI-generated advert by Toys R Us has been panned for including a host of errors. So I think they're getting a bit of a harsh reception here. So Toys R Us have actually made the first advert using Sora, which is OpenAI's text-to-video software.
And it hasn't quite worked, right? Because like the boy in it, every now and then his glasses get an extra bridge.
Exactly.
And he's got like an extra arm or something. Or something like that.
Exactly. I mean, it's not completely lifelike yet, and there are sort of weird artifacts. But when you think about, we didn't really have this technology a year ago, and how far it's come.
No, that's scary, and they will be able to do like full-on. Because I can imagine an AI writing and producing a soap opera script that is actually better than soap opera scripts that
It
exist.
will get there.
You know?
It will get there, certainly. I mean, it's certainly worrying as well. It raises a lot of questions as an artist what it means to be, creative, or if you work in conjunction with AI, is it yours?
Well, no, I think what AI will be able to do is to create popular culture.
Yeah.
I don't think it will ever be able to create art by definition. It can't because...
Really? But you've got to give me the necessary and sufficient conditions of art, which is a hard thing to do.
Do you want to do that right now?
Let's
Shall we
do it.
start with Zola's definition of art?
Please.
Life seen through a temperament. And I think that does sum it up, insofar as you need to have something... There's something about high art, about the greatest works of art, that really evoke the numinous, that is something connected to the human spirit. This isn't something that can be replicated through mechanical means. Cressida, what do you think?
I don't think you can get an AI-generated temperament.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Fair enough.
I think you can have mimicry of it. I think you could have a mimicry of the Sistine Chapel, but it wouldn't...
All this AI stuff.
It
Jonathan's
does.
always making AI stuff.
Exactly.
And showing me, and it's like, oh, this again.
If it did the Sistine Chapel, you'd be looking and you'd think, hold on a minute, God's fingers are all mashed up.
God's got 6 fingers.
Yeah, and, it'd be rubbish.
Well, I don't know. I think the question is still open, Andrew.
Well, we shall debate this time next year when it's advanced even further.
Exactly.
And you'll be out of a job because there'll be a robot instead.
Yeah, true.
OK, let's move on to the Daily Mail now. A mysterious ancient artefact is causing a stir. Don't they always, though?
Don't they always?
Yeah.
Scientists shed new light on ancient computer that helped the Greeks plot the movement of the planets and inspired latest Indiana Jones movie.
Oh, well, that's not its greatest achievement, is it?
No.
Well, the new one was terrible, apparently.
Awful.
I haven't seen it.
Awful.
I remember the
That
one
lanky gimp.
with the...
Sorry, Karen.
The one before with the aliens.
It's really...
That
I
wasn't
watched
great,
it as a kid.
but-
The stones will be found, Dr. Jones. You will not. That was the bad guy.
That's The Last Crusade. I mean, that's the best one.
It. I was
that's
very
the best
scared
one.
of that
You watch
as
the
a
best
child.
one with Sean Connery and then stop watching after
There are
that.
3
Oh, there you
Indiana
go.
Jones. We can all agree on that.
Nailed it. So they found this old thing. It's so old. They must have done an awful lot of tinkering to find out what this actually is and how it works.
Yeah, because how old is it? It's ancient Greece. So it's 2,200 years old.
It's so old.
Yeah. And this thing was able... I mean, it was full of cogs and mechanisms, and it was able to plot the stars. I mean, how would they even... And then that kind of technology wasn't replicated for another 1,500
frozen
years.
in time. That's how brilliant it was.
Amazing.
They're so sophisticated. I'm pretty certain it's lost technology from an ancient civilization that we've forgotten about. That is the GB News official position, by the way. We believe in Atlantis. No matter what anyone says, that is
You've been watching that Graham Hancock show. I'm sure you
When are we
have.
going to get to meet Graham?
Oh, he'd be great on this show.
I don't know who Graham Hancock
Graham Hancock. Oh, look him up. Everybody at home, go Google
the new
Graham Hancock. It's very
Belakovsky.
exciting.
He's the guy who thinks that Atlantis was real. There was a lost civilization, yeah.
We here think it's real. That's our position.
Our official position.
Yes, exactly.
I would like to emphasise that we do not feel that way, but Kogan does. That's because he is the way he is. Let's finish now with the Express. Cressida, if you were a box of cereal, what would you be and why?
Room full of basketballs to pizza scissors, weird interview questions and how to answer them. So this is what happens in the modern world, isn't it? Companies like Facebook, Google and Apple use unconventional questions about basketballs, clocks, pizza scissors and animals to test your skills. I'm not into this.
It's so pathetic.
Got horrible PTSD from corporate culture. I don't ever want to have enforced fun. I want you to ask me if I can do the job and I'll tell you.
Yeah, but they're suggesting that they're asking these crazy questions to see if you can think on your feet. Yeah. Jonathan, if you were a tree, what tree would you be?
I would probably be a birch.
OK, the job's yours.
Thank you.
No, but you see what I mean? It's actually quite tricky and you do have to sort of come up with a clever answer.
See, I did a double entendre. It was very clever.
Yeah, well, was it? Why?
Well, a birch is also another name for
a device used for thrashing.
Exactly. That's a switch.
Well, OK.
Well, that's just what goes on in your private life. I don't want to hear about that.
Yeah, true.
Grotesque. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. The show's nearly over. Let's take another look, though, at Friday's front pages. So the Daily Mail is leading with poll that shows it's not too late to stop the Starmer supermajority. And the Times has got shoot illegal migrants, said Reform campaigner. The Eye is leading with private school fees, VAT in Reeves' first budget, but delayed until 2025 and loophole closed. The Telegraph. Farage is a Putin appeaser, says Sunak. And The Express is leading with BBC paid TV audience to appear at Leaders' Debate. The Daily Star has this thing about insects coming out of the toilet. It's a useless story, but we did cover it nevertheless. That's all we've got time for. Thanks ever so much to my guests, Cressida Wetton and Jonathan Cogan. We are back tomorrow at the same time. And by the way, if you're watching the repeat at 5 a.m, then please do stick around, because now it is time for breakfast.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, time for the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Cool Atlantic winds return across the UK this weekend. That means blustery showers, especially for northern parts, but some drier and brighter interludes too, especially across southern parts. Low pressure, an unseasonably deep low, is now crossing northern Scotland. Around the south of that low, we've got these strong winds bringing unpleasant conditions really across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England. Spells of rain or showers continuing through the night. The strongest winds pushing through northern and northeast Scotland. Meanwhile, further south, it's mostly dry, apart from 1 or 2 showers for Wales and the southwest. Patchy cloud, but a cooler night for many of us, so 11 to 13 Celsius by dawn. Now, we start the day with those winds and the outbreaks of rain continuing across northwest Scotland. The Northwest Highlands seeing prolonged and at times heavy rain, and the rain then sweeping into Orkney and Shetland later. Some shelter from the rain across eastern and southern Scotland, but a few showers here, brightening up across Northern Ireland compared with the last 24 hours. A few sunny spells, but also 1 or 2 showers. A few showers there for Wales, Northern England, perhaps the southwest, but the further southeast you are, the drier it will be, the brighter it will be. There'll be quite a lot of cloud, to be honest, across the UK during the day, but some brightness will develop, especially towards the southwest by the afternoon. Further north, any rain tends to break up into showers, but there will be some heavy downpours for the Highlands, Grampians, the northwest of Scotland, and that strong wind continues, making it feel on the cool side. In the south, where we've got some sunshine and lighter winds, 23 Celsius, so not too unpleasant. We start Saturday with a lot of fine weather. Best of the sunshine, the southeast, as well as parts of southern Scotland and Northern Ireland. This finger of cloud pushes into northern and western England as well as Wales to bring some light rain by the afternoon. But for many this weekend is looking mostly settled, if a lot cooler compared with the weather of recent days.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tormini.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect And then you throw me into the mix, and trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 7 p.m. on Thursday, the 27th of June, and this is a GB News election special with me, Camilla Tominey. Welcome to Vote 2024, The Leaders. So good evening and welcome to this special edition of Vote 2024, The Leaders. Tonight we bring you a sit-down interview with the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. It's exactly 1 week until the election. Can Rishi keep hold of the keys to number 10? Last week we interviewed Sir Keir Starmer, and yesterday Sir Ed Davey as part of our Vote 2024, The Leaders series. Today we bring you the Prime Minister.
You're having an election based on trust and what you'll do in the future. Yeah. You haven't cut migration.
Well, I've been Prime Minister for 18 months, Chris. And let's
your party, forgive me, your party.
Okay.
He was slightly tetchy when pushed on the Tories' record on immigration.
Will you lose your seat next week?
No, of course. I'm fighting very hard everywhere.
And as you saw there, he's not quite sure he can retain his seat.
What did you think about that remark about you personally?
Yeah, look, he should answer what he means by that.
And there he was asking Nigel Farage to explain himself. Well, with me to discuss this, we have voices from each of the three major political parties. We've got a cracking show lined up tonight, but first, here's the news.